Hi, everybody. Welcome. So, why am I wearing a pair of 3D glasses? Well, because this, my friends, is the false lens that we have to remove in order to see life truthfully. And you'll see 3D, so the third dimension, where we're stuck seeing life only through the bottom three energy centers known as chakras, the wheels of light, or the gateways to the dimensions. 3D is where we see things in a polarized way, i.e., red or blue. We divide everything into two camps. And it's very interesting to note that these are the colors, red and blue, that we see on the flags of the countries that were colonized by the British Empire, including the United States of America. Yeah, we have to swear allegiance to the colors of the flag of red and blue. This is all part of the, you know, illusion, what keeps us in a state of illusion. So we've got to get rid of these. Yeah. And I'm just going to put on these ones, my midlife glasses, so I can see my notes. So those colors, red and blue, that we see on the 3D lens, we also saw them in Star Wars, didn't we? Yeah, Luke Skywalker had the blue lightsaber and Darth Vader had the red one. But these actually represent from the Earth people's cultures, which is all of our traditions, the blue of the Sky Father and the red of the earth, the good red road, or the Earth Mother, the blood mysteries of the feminine. So when these are split, we create hell on earth. When they're integrated, we experience heaven on earth. And what we're experiencing now, Koya Squatsi, is the term given to the world being so out of balance that we're on the verge of complete and utter destruction. Now, I'm speaking about this today because we're currently seeing in our skies the fulfillment of the prophecy known as the blue and red Kachina. A Kachina is a star. And I'm referring to the three-eye Atlas. Atlas in the myth of the Titans is, the god who stood up to Zeus and who had the weight of the world on his shoulders. So this blue Kachina, this blue star that we're seeing currently in our solar system, which by the end of this week, right now, is going to be within 29 million kilometers of Mars, which appears red in the sky. So as I'm doing this transmission on the eve of the first supermoon for the year, the full moon on the 6th of October in the sign of Aries, ruled by Mars, okay, we're seeing the blue and the red stars as close as they'll come to each other. So I want to speak about this prophecy today. It feels very important, very timely, and I invite you to share this video if it resonates with you. So first of all, these colors of blue and red that keep us, polarized and stuck in 3D, the third dimension, they also relate to the colors of the feminine and the masculine meridians of energy within our light body, within our energy field. These are the twin serpents of light. When these aspects within us, so feminine and masculine, or active and receptive polarities, are not consciously integrated at the 7 gates of awareness, okay, or the 7 dimensions, we are like snakes in a bag. Our energy is erratic. Our mental state is conflicted, confused. We are emotionally easily triggered and reactive. So just like a serpent does when it's scared, we strike, to sink our teeth in and our venom to hurt others, not because we want to, but because we're operating in that lowest level of vigilante justice, which seeks to exact punishment, whether that's overtly, aggressively, or covertly as passive aggression on those who we feel have perpetrated hurts and betrayal on us. And this is what keeps us trapped in an ongoing cycle of karma, creating karma drama unconsciously. And it is time to stop this dance now. And I know I've spoken about this, and we're all in this together. I've been put through my lessons as much as anyone lately. The reason, well, two major reasons it's time to stop this old dance of conflict now. We are approaching the equinox full moon. So we had the equinox on the 22nd of September. And the equinox is the time of equal light and dark on the planet. And as I'm recording this transmission, I'm 6 degrees south of the equator in Bali. This always coincides with the sun and moon in the signs of Libra and Aries, that axis we must balance. Now, Aries is about our own needs, getting clear on what we want and taking responsibility for asserting ourselves and meeting our own needs. Whereas Libra is about being sensitive to the needs of others so that we can co-create and cooperate harmoniously. If we aren't doing the work of considering what it is to walk in another's moccasins, another's shoes, then we're constantly bumping up against others' needs and dominating them, only thinking of ourselves like a small child, because Aries is the youngest sign of the zodiac. So, we're stuck in me, me, me. And, the West, which is most individuated and individualized in its thinking and behavior, is like a small child. This is, an opportunity, this full moon in Aries, the sign of the child, for us to start a new cycle of emotional and psychological growth and maturity. And we do that by looking, reflecting, full moon is a time of illumination, the time of exalted feminine energy each month, when we have the opportunity to see our crap more clearly than at other times of the month, which is why I do this transmission at this time. So, and just on that, to honor my energy levels in midlife, I'm feeling, rather than doing videos, for the new moon and the full moon, I'm just going to do one a month, focusing on the ascension energies and the energies for the whole month. And I invite you to subscribe to my email list if you want to get that, given that I'm very shadow banned these days. So if you want to ensure that you get my updates, the best way is to subscribe at themoonwoman.com. YouTube also seems to be delivering, but you can forget Facebook. No one is seeing my posts on there. So, subscribe. So back to it. So with the sun moving through Libra, so at full moon, you always have the sun and the moon in opposite signs. This is a time for us to restore justice through looking at where we have been out of balance, starting with our perspective, having a cockeyed view of things. In other words, only focusing on where we've been hurt and not where our unconscious thoughts, words, and behaviors have wounded others. And that's how we become the peacemaker, the diplomat, the advocate for peace. And this first supermoon of the year is in Aries, ruled by Mars. So it's going to have a huge effect on us. Already is, obviously. We're in this lunation, the 2 weeks leading up to this full moon, which is tomorrow. And we're seeing, war being leveraged by the globalists who are funding, the wars. so that we are distracted. We're not noticing the totalitarian control agenda, Agenda 30, that is being, orchestrated covertly in the background. And, keeping the mainstream media filled with images, horrific images of war, traumatizes the collective into a stasis where they can't think straight. It's a form of psychological and emotional abuse. So, what can we do? Well, we can heal as alchemists, not as activists, not getting embroiled in drama and blame, but rather looking at where we are the perpetrator of war in our personal lives and being accountable to heal that. Because if we don't attend to the hurts of our own inner child, we isolate ourselves on the basis that the world isn't safe or the other people aren't worthy of our love and attention because they've hurt us. And this protection of the wound causes us to harden, to do psychic armoring like Darth Vader, the Dark Father, so that we're not available to love because we're not prepared to be vulnerable, to bare our heart on openly and honestly. And protecting the wound is actually what keeps us from healing and transcending our wound. And it keeps us sort of in a false cocoon because we're not doing the work of dissolution, of feeling the pain and then dissolving in our own tears, having that second birth, the baptism of our own tears, to receive insights through a clear channel. If we stay hard in our heart, we remain stuck in blaming others, seeing ourselves with the eye of pity or superiority, maybe righteous indignation or resentment, which is anger not expressed, which curdles. And all of that keeps us trapped in fear. So more than ever, now we have this opportunity to see our own crap. Why? Well, this prophecy of the blue and the red kachina is currently being fulfilled right above our heads. And, it was said that the blue kachina would first appear to those in ceremony, in dances, in the night sky, which represents coming in the dreaming state, whether that's lucid dreaming, so in the meditative state, those that are doing trance practices like breath work, chanting, through shamanic dance, and through ceremony. But the mask is being ripped away. Our social mask is being ripped away. And I recently experienced that in a very humbling way in both of my retreats that I led in Morocco and Bali for women in midlife. Thank God for me. These women were mature medicine women themselves. And so we were all journeying our stuff in circle. And that is what circle is. It's everybody is in the process. And yeah, it's coming ready or not for all of us. Our social mask, is what we carefully construct, in order to be loved, in order to be accepted, to be liked, to stay safe, to keep a semblance of control. But it is being ripped away. And that's so that we can have this second birth. We can make that shift from ego to soul, from caterpillar to butterfly. But it's not comfortable. Yeah, it's often in the form of a crisis. And what is a crisis? It's when we experience change in many areas of our life simultaneously. So the blue star, known as the kachina, the blue kachina, in the Hopi prophecy is said to herald in the fifth world, which is the new age of Aquarius, the fifth dimensional state of being. And this would be done through a time of intense healing and purification. In India, they have the same prophecy. In the Sanskrit Indian Vedas, they said the immortal blue god Parashuram will return to clean evil from our planet. And what is evil? Well, it is simply the opposite of that which supports life. Like if we invert the word live, we are worshipping that which is actually not a sentient being, not alive, i.e. AI, the system, the machine, that which replicates rather than creates. So it's the false teacher, the great deceiver. And as I'm speaking this, I'm just going to show you, it's if you've got a weak stomach, look away. But I'm literally, as I'm speaking, I'm rubbing, can you see that? All this peeling skin off my leg where I've been put through this intense purification the last week, where I've been shedding my skin after getting severely sunburnt, you know, flying too close to the sun on the way over to the special world, to the little island where I led the last retreat. More about that in a minute. So what is this prophecy? Well, the Blue Star Kachina prophecy spoke of the 9 signs that would precede the end of the 4th world and the beginning of the new one, the 5th one. And these signs include white people with thunder sticks, which are guns, spinning wheels with voices, so the arrival of vehicles that carry people. So first there were the pilgrims in their wagons and then cars, and then the snakes of iron, so the railroads, and then the giant spider's web. So this started with the telephone poles being erected, and then electricity, and then, of course, the internet. The rivers of stone, which are the asphalt highways across the land, the sea turning black with dying creatures. These were the oil spills that we witnessed. And youth sporting long hair and seeking the native ways. So this began, of course, in 1967 with the birth of the hippie movement in San Francisco with the Summer of Love, and has continued to build in momentum since then. And we will be seeing the commemoration, the 60th anniversary of the Summer of Love in 2027 with the summer solstice. And I'm looking for people to partner with me to create an event to mark this, starting in New Zealand, the place of first light at summer solstice, and then journeying around the world, creating events to create a unified field, to create unity, to heal polarity, like a big Mexican wave of light around the planet, finishing in Glastonbury for the summer solstice in 2027. This vision that's come through was seeded by a wonderful woman called Sally Mudge, who was there in the Summer of Love in London, wearing bells and giving out flowers to strangers barefoot on the streets of London. And she saw me speak and asked me if I would be part of this project with another dear brother and sister. And together we are looking for patrons. We're looking for sponsorship. We're looking for volunteers to help event manage this global project. So please get in touch. The website is, oh, I've totally blanked on it. but I will put it in the description below this video on YouTube and in my email. So getting back to this prophecy, the appearance of the blue star, which is 3I Atlas now in our solar system, it's a call for humanity to return now, to live in harmony with ourselves, with nature and spirit, those two aspects of us, of spirit and earth, to harmonize these aspects again, like the Sri Yantra, yeah, opposites in union. Because this is a sign we have now entered the final 7-year cycle, and that we are going to see within this 7-year cycle extreme earth changes, cataclysmic events, only to the degree that we need a wake-up call to return to the ways of living in harmony with nature. The more of us who do the work of integration, of healing the split within, of being the rainbow warriors and awakening these twin serpents in harmony, okay, from the base to the crown, so that we can become an instrument of healing, the caduceus, the staff of healing. The more that we awaken this rainbow bridge within us and become clear conduits to anchor heaven and earth with our hands, with our voices, with our actions, the less cataclysmic the events need to be. So this prophecy, it was brought through by the Hopi. The Hopi are a Native American tribe that are actually an amalgam, a coming together of many tribes. And they are known as a snake tribe, so a tribe of tantrikas or tantriques. So those who honor the serpents within and understand that we must raise the serpents within to raise our consciousness, on the understanding when the serpents rise, the people will rise, and we will overthrow those dark lords that have tried to repress the serpents and taught people to fear the serpents, so that they could assume total control over our life force by assuming that power for themselves. If we think about the glyph of Kundalini, of serpent power, the rod of Asclepius, the rod of personal healing, this was appropriated and turned into the money symbol, so that people worship money and betray their soul and siphon their energy so that it goes to the crown, to the head of the pyramid of power, rather than us raising the power within us, the currents within us. It has us betray our own energy and serve a false master. So this snake tribe, the Hopi, are renowned for bringing through many prophecies. Their portal place of magic is Sedona, and the Hopi tribe were actually the source of inspiration for Star Wars, which came through in 1977 when Chiron, my crown is very itchy as I'm speaking, it's being activated. Star Wars brought through the mythology or the mythos for these changing times. And the origin story of the Hopi is worth noting. It starts with this young teenage boy, a bit like Luke Skywalker, and he was called Tio, and he wondered what lay beyond the great river, okay, which is in itself a serpent, yeah, like the Nile had the temples that corresponded to the portals within our 7 chakras, our 7 energy centers. He wanted to go beyond his known world, like Kermit the Frog in the swamp, and like Luke Skywalker in the desert. He wanted to know what lay beyond the great river, which is the body of the sacred feminine. He wanted to journey that current of energy and know where it would lead him, so that he could solve the mystery of why their corn only grew as long as a finger. So his growth was stunted and he wanted more. He thirsted for more. So, like those who thirst for more, he set out on a quest. And he did that by carving out a log, a tree, which is the body of the three worlds, which is the tree of life, or the Shekinah, the sacred feminine, those that learn how to journey the three worlds, the underworld or the subconscious, the everyday, the conscious mind, and the upper world, the super consciousness, the winged self or winged perspective, embody the three sisters, or the triple-fold goddess, the maiden mother crone. So he wanted to awaken his shaman self, not knowing that cognitively, of course. He just yearned to fulfill his potential. So he sailed down the river until he came to the island of Great Grandmother Spider, the goddess of wisdom, who can transform herself at will. And it was in her islands that he descended in her kiva, her underground sacred space, her womb space, her cave, if you will. And he sat in her sacred space for guidance and renewal. Traditionally, this is where women would sit in the lodge, the moon lodge, in circle, reflecting back to each other what it was that needed to die in themselves so that they could be reborn. This is what I've been doing in the retreats in September in Morocco and Bali. So then he travels over the rainbow. He makes that journey in the three worlds, in the Shekinah, and he journeys to the Isle of the Serpent People, those who have shape-shifted and awakened their serpent nature, those who have awakened those meridians of sacred feminine and masculine. They've awakened their kundalini, their serpent power. And this is done consciously, not with, taking any medicine or anything. It is through humbling one's ego, through an act of complete surrender and being seen in one's wound, in one's shadow, being exposed, having that social mask ripped off so that, you can't hide from yourself because you can't hide from the circle. And this meant that he was faced with his worst fears. So the serpent people, they transformed themselves into the demons, into every type of serpent that TU could imagine. And when this initiation was complete, representing his shamanic death in the special world, he was offered one of the serpent maidens to be his bride. And this symbolizes that he had created the inner marriage, that he had integrated the split parts of his psyche. So it's only through initiation we can do this, initiation into the feminine mysteries, to consciously piece together all the parts of ourselves that, until we're initiated, are at war with ourselves, creating conflict with others in our waking world. So today, TU went back to his people, having transformed himself with the bride within, and it's said that he birthed many serpents which bit the people that were unintegrated, the two separate clans that were stuck in third dimensional consciousness, fighting with themselves and each other. And today these two clans keep effigies of the feathered serpent, one who has transcended their lower nature, like Quetzalcoatl, the winged serpent in the Mayan tradition. Now, we have just completed Navaratri. What is Navaratri? It is the Hindu festival that celebrates the 9 nights where the goddess within us all must face and fight her demons every day in order to transcend them, to grow beyond them. Now, I experienced this in a very colourful and dramatic way when I unwittingly scheduled my Bali retreat, Spread Your Wings, aptly named, during those exact dates. And yes, friends, it was a shit show. I wondered why I'd been wearing brown all year and looking more and more like Mr. Hanky the Christmas poo. Well, I contracted Bali belly before the retreat and didn't read the instructions saying that I had to quadruple my dose of probiotics. I doubled it, and that was not enough. Yep, I got taken down by my bowels. I have 5 planets in Scorpio. Scorpio rules the bowels. So my demons showed up as a literal shit show. My belly was contracted like a woman in labor. I could not eat. At the lowest point, it was coming out both ends. I fevered for a couple of days. I was in the fetal position, my body shivering, my stomach cramping, and I was meant to be running a retreat. Um, and not only that, on the trip over, I got so severely sunburnt that my legs were swollen with edema from the aloe vera that I'd applied. My skin was peeling off. I mean, it was, pretty spectacular, but not as spectacular as one of the women who ended up contracting salmonella and contracting typhoid from that food poisoning and ending up in hospital for the duration of the entire retreat. It was like Bridesmaids, the sequel. Even my support person on the first day was in a fever, which lasted 48 hours. So, I don't know how it played out for you. Do share it in the comments if Navaratri showed up in a very powerful way for you this year. I suspect for those of us that are very sensitive and have made vows to be conduits for Gaia, to serve the earth, we have had a very intense Navaratri because the blue Kachina is here. And that is instigating a very intense purification process. And the more of us who go through that intense ego death, then the less the planet has to go through that to catalyze an ego death in the group mind. Not saying that I didn't have to personally confront my own shit. So, this isn't the first time the world as we know it has ended. The world has been through 3 deaths previously, which is why we are in 3D consciousness. The first world was destroyed by fire. A comet came, and, we had volcanic eruptions, such as Pompeii. The second world was destroyed by ice, the Great Ice Age. And the third world was destroyed by the flood, the Great Flood. It is said that the fourth world, which will be destroyed within the next 7 years, will be destroyed by a wind. I think this is emblematic of the fact that the collective consciousness is stuck in the solar plexus, the lower mind, and that is creating out of balance mental behavior. And what will usher us out of that are thought leaders sharing ancient wisdom, piercing insights that wake people up to the truth, wake them out of their sleep state of confusion created by the digital age. And this will usher in the Aquarian age, Aquarius being the final and third air sign, which helps us to transcend the distracting monkey mind chatter of the lower mind, which keeps us in gossip, keeps us in small thinking, only thinking about mundane events rather than thinking about the big picture and our role in it. In 1970, the year that I was born, the Sun Clan leader, Dan Kachongva, from the village of Hot Villa, who died at the age of 112, spoke about this blue Kachina prophecy. This is a quote from him speaking about the conditions of our times that we're now in. He said, "We have teachings and prophecies informing us we must be alert for the signs and omens which will come about to give us courage and strength to stand on our beliefs. Blood will flow," meaning blood will be shed. There will be war, as we have seen in Gaza and all around the earth, in Syria, in Yemen. Our hair and our clothing will be scattered upon the earth. That is a very bleak image. Nature will speak to us with its mighty breath of wind. What does wind do? It carries new thought forms around the earth. Okay, if we want to smudge somebody, yeah, we blow the sacred cedar grass and sage, we blow it through someone's energy field. So this is a powerful time to be smudging yourself with sage, with frankincense, you know, to clear your energy field with eucalyptus. He goes on to say there will be earthquakes and floods causing great disasters, changes in the seasons and in the weather, disappearance of wildlife and famine in different forms. I know of two new communities that have just birthed in the south of England, and I've applied to both of them, whether or not they're able to sponsor me to base my work there, helping people to align with the natural cycles through ancient community practices reimagined for this new age. Because it's time for us to take responsibility for food security, because like the old siege mentality, the globalists will use food as a means to herd us into 15-minute smart cities. And if we don't comply, they will use starvation tactics. So those who are listening to Gaia, listening to the ancient law of the land, know now is the time to move away from your dependency on the digital technologies that have enslaved our lower minds and get back to living simply in community on the land, growing our own food and in communion with the elements, sitting around the fire of the evening to decompress, to reflect, to channel wisdom from the star tribes, our elders. Dan went on to say there will be gradual corruption and confusion among the leaders and the people all over the world, and wars will come about like powerful winds. All of this has been planned from the beginning of creation. Another spiritual elder from the same Third Mesa village, David Monaghy, warned when earthquakes, floods, hailstorms, drought, and the famine will be the way of life every day, it will be the time to return to the true path, or you will go a zigzag way. Now, it's interesting, if you want to run away from a cobra, you run in a zigzag. Actually, no, I'm getting that wrong. You stare off a cobra. It's a bear that you run from in a zigzag way. Not that you'd want to try, but anyway. But the zigzag way refers to those who are split, those who don't know which master to serve, the mind or the heart, those whose psyche is at war with itself. And this is symbolized by the appearance of the red and the blue star in the heavens. to ease the destruction of the elements in our outer world, we must walk integrated in the one heart. That is the path of white Tantra, the path of the goddess Sarasvati, one who is integrated, one who is self-aware, aware of both their light and their darkness, one who is humble, living close to the earth, connected to their feelings, to their heart, and bowing to the cycles of the Earth Mother and of the cosmos as the only thing that rules us, through honoring the growth of the three sisters known as corn, beans, and squash. These are not just vegetables. These represent the three stages of maiden, mother, and crone, the cycles that are the law of the land, the teachings of the sacred feminine, women's mysteries. This is why Princess Leia's hairstyle was inspired by the Hopi women that wore those spirals on either side of their head. The Hopi people believed that the end of the fourth world, this time that we're now in, would be signaled by women starting to wear men's clothing. This is significant. 2/3 of those who are rejecting the gender they were born into are girls. Girls are rejecting their womanhood completely due to the lack of initiation into the way of the three sisters, the wisdom teachings and the practices of the sacred feminine. We need to reinstate rites of passage for both our girls and our boys, and for men and women through all 4 life stages. Maiden, mother, mage, and crone for the women, knight, king, magi, and sage for the men. Without this, we are lost as a people. We are easily manipulated and controlled because we are confused and don't know who we are. When you don't know your own heart and mind, you look to an external authority to lead you and you become enslaved. I wish to put a caveat in here. Nowadays, we are seeing the rise of the feminine and it's wonderful. But with the rise of the digital age, we are now seeing many purporting to teach the sacred feminine, and many are the false teacher. Because today you can create an online course using ChatGPT. You can promise to awaken the Magdalene or the goddess within just by knowing how to use the algorithms on Instagram. So beware. Just because someone uses keywords to hook your attention and speak to your deepest desires does not mean they can offer you true initiation into the wisdom teachings and the practices of the sacred feminine. Only someone who has undergone many humbling initiations by going deep within to that 0 point, having that shamanic death over and over again, by doing the 13 moons for many, many years. I am referring to consciously journeying the descent every month that your body initiates you through as a woman, in a held space, in a moon lodge, in a red tent. Only by doing that practice every month and awakening the twin serpents of Shiva and Shakti to create the inner marriage, and by going through the chronological cycles, the blood rites of Monarch, the hymen breaking, pregnancy, and perimenopause, can somebody take you deep into that Shekinah, into the world tree, to have a conscious death. So with Uranus now in Gemini, the sign of delusion, confusion, of the digital world, of illusion cast by the false teacher, the magician, for this 7 years where we're going to see the destruction of the earth. If we listen to the false teacher, we need to exercise discernment. We need to understand that false teachers replicate. They steal what they can from the true teachers because they want the status, they want the power, they want to be seen as all-knowing, wise. They want to be worshipped as cult leaders. But the true teachers are humble. The true teachers will bare their heart and soul. They will embody trickster. They will share by exposing their shadow, exposing their faults. These global destructions that we are going to be witnessing in this 7-year period, which has begun with the blue Kachina's appearance in our sky, these global destructions are not random, just as the global destructions of the first 3 worlds were not random. They simply represent the imbalance within us. We need to respond as alchemists, not activists. Activism just creates more polarity, more conflict. Rather than fear nature, fear a cataclysm, we need to be accountable for our own nature, looking at where elementally we are out of balance and restore that balance as a matter of urgent priority. The blue and red Kachina prophecy states the appearance of the twins begins a period of 7 years. This will be our final opportunity to change our ways. Everything we experience is a matter of choice. Again, this is a 7-year period. January 12, 2025 is when Uranus entered Gemini for 7 years. This is when we will see AI try and confuse and delude those who don't know their own heart, the one heart that is collective, soul. Many will appear to have lost their soul in these final days. As we get close to the time of the purifier, the red Kachina appearing in our sky, there will be those who walk as ghosts in the cities. Yep, the zombie apocalypse. The prophecy goes on, there will be those who would walk in the body that are not from this reality. So walk-ins, those that are from the astral, from lower planes, lower dimensions. It says, for many of the gateways that once protected us will be opened, like what is being done in Switzerland, in Geneva. I'm trying to remember the name of the project where they've opened portals. The prophecy goes on to say there will be much confusion between sexes and children and their elders. So this speaks to the confusion around gender identity and also the pedophilia, which is rife, not a natural relationship between children and elders. Prophecy says life will get very perverted and there will be little social order in these times. That is because the role of the sacred feminine is to provide social order through cyclic practices that provide a scaffolding for people to mature and grow gracefully with nature to become a man or a woman for all seasons, the seasons of their life, so that we don't perpetrate harm on the young. The prophecy goes on, so intense will the nature of these changes be that those who are weak in spiritual awareness will go insane, for we are nothing without spirit. They will disappear, for they are just hollow vessels for anything to use. So that speaks of those who have checked out, those who are here in body, those who have dementia, those who are experiencing psychosis due to an unintegrated psyche, lack of shamanic, mystic guidance to assist them through their rebirth. Those who are suffering from depression because their oversoul is not anchored. Instead, they've taken drugs, opening them up, and so they are being ridden by other entities and completely unaware that those entities are directing them, using them as a host. All Indigenous people understand that all sickness is soul sickness. Yeah, we can't treat it with pills in a bottle. We need to go to the root cause. You know, when I was suffering, the doctor came and gave me antispasmodics, you know, anti-nausea, painkillers, but the only thing that got rid of it was treating the cause, probiotics, repopulating the flora in my gut, supporting the body to do its own work of healing, not just merely masking with symptom relief, which is the way of Western medicine, those that have appropriated the symbol of the caduceus. The prophecy goes on, life will be so bad in the cities, many will choose to leave this plane, some in whole groups. So this speaks to mass deaths, those that can't take the suffering of being in the group mind of so many that are experiencing anxiety and depression and self-medicating. The return of the blue star Kachina is also known as Nan Ga Sahu. It's an alarm clock that speaks of a new day and a new way of life, a new world that is coming. So it is heralding something wonderful, the birth, the dawning of the new age. But this is the transition phase of the rebirth, when we may experience so much intensity, we wish we were dead in order just to stop it. A fire will be lit within us. This is Kundalini. This is a fire of purification. This is the ascension process. It will bring up all that is untenable, unsustainable, beliefs that need to be outgrown, toxic ways of operating, addictions. Alternatively, many will burn up with desire, thinking that happiness can only be met through meeting the ego's desires. And this leads to a complete enslavement and a madness. It says we will burn up with desire and conflict if we don't remember the original teachings and return to the peaceful way of life. Not far behind this blue Kachina that we can now see in our sky will come the purifier, the red star Kachina, who will usher in the day of purification. I think that this is the solar event, the solar flare. The prophecy says on this day, the earth, her creatures, and all of life as we know it will change forever. I think this is the moment of transmutation. Those that have done the shadow work, integrating all aspects of the self, will experience a metamorphosis. A physiological change so that we are less dense and able to withstand the shift into the higher dimensional frequencies of the fifth age, the fifth dimension, which has more plasma, which is why we're experiencing preparatory solar flares, which I've spoken about in previous videos. The prophecy says there will be messengers that will precede the coming of the red Kachina, the purifier. They will leave messages for those on earth who remember the old ways. Those who remember the Earth Mother and the Cosmic Father, the Pahana, will leave the cities to live in the mountains and the forest. The messages to warn the people will be found written in the living stone and in the sacred grains, the crop circles, yeah? And even in the waters. So we're seeing, I'm trying to remember her name, bless her, beautiful New Zealand sister who's bringing through the information about the psychic, prophetic abilities of water, leaving signs now. Forgive my menopausal mind for not remembering her name. Do put it in the chat. It says that the purifier will issue forth a great red light. This to me seems like the coronal flare of this solar event. All things will change in their manner of being. Every living thing will be offered the opportunity to change from the largest to the smallest thing. So we're all going through this ascension together. Those who return to the ways given to us in the original teachings, those who heed the call to return to live simply with the Mother, to unplug, will not be touched by the coming of the purifier. They will survive. They will build the new world. Only in the ancient teachings will the ability to understand the messages be found. So we must look to the old teachings if we're going to decipher the signs. So this, my friends, my family, is time for us to rebalance. The most simple way to do that as a daily practice is to practice pranayama, which is conscious breathing, alternate nostril breathing. So covering your right nostril, putting your finger up at your third eye, and breathing into an even count, such as a count of 6 in through the left, holding it for 6 in the third eye. You might want to roll your nostrils, your gaze, up to the third eye, then covering the left nostril, breathing out to an even count of 6, and then repeating the other way, breathing into a count of 6, holding for a count of 6 in the third eye, and breathing out to a count of 6 through the left nostril. And just repeating this for as many cycles as you feel every day. Just like the butterfly effect, every little thing we do is impacting the macrocosm. Similarly, chanting Om to end your breathing practice. When we chant Om in 3 syllables, Ah, O, we are creating coherence between the 3 minds, that of the brain, the heart, and the instinctual gut. There are neurons in all 3. And chanting Om, the sound of the omnipotent, the eternal, that is loving compassion, we come into coherence with the all. So if you're interested in further teachings and practices to create integration of your psyche, coherence, if you want to know more and receive initiations through coming to my live events, you can sign up for my email list at themoonwoman.com. Thank you so much for listening. It's been a long transmission, but this one was very, very important. So blessings on your full moon, blessings on your month, and may there be peace on earth.